Welcome back, everybody, to episode number 19 of the Plumecast, my weekly gaming news podcast, where I talk about just random things happening in the news that I didn't get to cover throughout the week, or if I want to just double down on some stuff that I did cover. So thank you all again for stopping by for another week, episode number 19. So this week on the Plumecast, we have a couple of things to talk about, some Xbox stuff, some PlayStation stuff, just random game stuff, and we'll get all into that later. But as I do every single week, drink a beer on the podcast, and this week's beer is the St. Ambroise India Pale Ale Strong Beer, 6.2% alcohol, and it is pretty good. It says here, St. Ambroise India Pale Ale is dry hopped using traditional methods and is brewed with a selection of pale and specialty malts for a balanced malty character. And this is from Montreal, Quebec. So all of you people in Quebec and Montreal, this is from there. And it's good. It's a strong beer, 6.2% alcohol. It's a Saturday night generally when I'm recording this. So I like to, sit back, relax, have a strong beer, and take in whatever is going on throughout the week, talk about it, and just kind of decompress, I guess is the best word I'm looking for the long weeks that I go through and working and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, decent beer. Check it out. Let me know what you guys are drinking in the comments below, and any suggestions. Like I said, I'll keep it out. I actually do have a list. I know you may out there be thinking that I say that every week and that I never come back with any of the beers that you guys say. I've come like 2 episodes or so, I've been able to find some. The issue is obviously where I live, we don't get a lot of the local beers and craft beers that you guys are drinking, if that's what you're drinking. So that's the main reason, but I definitely have a list, and I keep a look for it. Even some of the beers that you've given me and I've looked online and they say that they do sell them in my area, I've been to the store near me and they just don't have them. So I don't know if this is just a COVID thing and they're getting less supply or what's going on, but it seems to be the same stuff, at least recently, there every single week. But definitely keep those comments coming. I love to see them. I love to see what you guys are drinking at the very least. Now this week, what I have been playing has been similar to last week. So The Ascent, first of all, and for those out there who haven't checked out The Ascent, I mean, if you like twin stick shooters, because that's the core of what it is. It's a twin stick shooter with a very deep RPG, or very deep RPG elements to it. So I guess a twin stick shooting RPG. If you like RPGs or if you like twin stick shooters, I would highly recommend checking out. One of my favorite things about The Ascent so far is the actual world and environment, and the music, and how it all just ties in so well together. I feel like the living environment within The Ascent is one of the best I've ever seen in a video game, to be completely honest. Like, everything you do in that game, when you're running around, you're walking around, you're seeing the NPCs just doing their own thing. And then if you like shoot your gun, or if you just do something that causes a ruckus, they all react in a very organic way. And no matter what you're going through, like if you're walking through an alleyway, you're walking through an area where there's like a bar, or there's a club, or there's a store or something, and some enemies come up and they start attacking you, you'll see those people in those areas see what's going on, react, and then try to get out and save their lives. And it's such a well-developed world, such a well-developed living world. And I remember the developers actually talked about this before the release of the game, and what they talked about really shines through when you're playing it. So that's probably one of my favorite things about The Ascent. That plus, I mean, like the gameplay is really fun. The twin stick shooting is really well done. The RPG stuff is very deep. I find like it's a real RPG. You really have to make sure you're wearing the right equipment for the enemies that you're taking on, have the right guns. Like there was a section where I was running through and I kept dying. Like, what's going on? Like, I'm a higher level than the enemies I'm fighting. And then I realized I had the wrong weapon equipped for the enemy type that they were. And as soon as I figured that out, I got the correct enemy, or the correct weapon. I was able to get right through it. So there's all that RPG stuff that you have to take into account when playing through this game, and it's a ton of fun. I highly recommend checking it out. I'm currently playing it with couch co-op, so it's taking me a little bit longer to get through the game. Play like maybe not every single night, depending on when I have time, but when we sit down and play, we play for like maybe 2 hours, and do all the side missions. So that's why I want to do all the side mission stuff until I get bored of it, and then I'll continue to push the main campaign. But yeah, it is a great game and just an awesome get for Game Pass. I mean, it's just like, it's one of those things where I feel like a lot of people who only focus on like the big AAA games and all that kind of stuff, they miss out on some of the best games ever made. Honestly, they miss out on some of the best games that come out, because some of these indie developers make games that are better, in my opinion, than a lot of the AAA games out there. Like Death's Door recently, which I beat, and it's probably my favorite game of the year so far, better than any AAA game that I've played so far, in my opinion, for my style of games that I enjoy. And just the uniqueness and creativity within that game, the music, all that kind of stuff. It's just such a joy to play through. And the Ascent's giving me a similar feeling. So it's a great game. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go check it out. Like I said, if you like RPGs, you like cyberpunk, you like twin stick shooters, all those things, like one of those things, I mean, check it out. Besides that, I've been playing some more Need for Speed Heat, and this game is just a ton of fun. And it's kind of, it blows me away that I remember when that game came out. Now, I'm not like a huge Need for Speed veteran. I haven't played a lot of the recent ones that came out. I used to love Need for Speed way back in the day, like when the first one came out, the second one came out. But in the last couple of years, like I haven't played very many Need for Speeds. And I just decided to jump into Need for Speed Heat to see what the franchise was all about again, if it was like its roots or just how it's evolved from way back when I played it. And man, it's a lot of fun. The gameplay is spot on, in my opinion. I think the gameplay for the racing, the controls, everything is great. So it's kind of, I'm just kind of confused why so many people hated on it. And is it maybe just because it's an EA game? I feel like a lot of people just hate on any EA game that comes out because it's EA. And I don't know. If you play Need for Speed Heat, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on the game. If you liked it or if you disliked it, like honestly, let me know. If you're somebody who's like a huge Need for Speed junkie, let me know why people dislike Need for Speed Heat, or let me know if that hate was like uncalled for, because I'm honestly having a ton of fun playing that game. I find the drifting, the racing, all that kind of stuff is just good fun. Besides that, I've also recently dabbled in the Madden 22 free trial that you get with EA Play and Xbox Game Pass, and I wanted to just check it out to see if there was really any upgrades or difference in the gameplay compared to Madden 21, because I didn't really like Madden 21. I barely played it. I didn't buy it or anything. I played the free trial and that was it. But Madden 22 so far seems like it is an upgrade in the sense, like it looks really good. Like at times it looks lifelike, like it's like you're watching a game on TV. The graphics I think are really good. The gameplay seems solid. I mean, it doesn't seem like a huge jump or a big difference from Madden 21 in terms of the feel, in terms of the animations, but I definitely kind of feel a minor difference between the two titles. But when I play Madden, I want to play franchise mode. And the reason why I'm trying this free trial mainly is because I did see that they are improving the franchise mode. Finally, we're getting stuff that we should have had for years and years and years. And it has piqued my interest a little bit. And I know the franchise mode stuff that they're adding isn't coming until like September. So there's no way I'm going to like go out and buy this game day one or anything like that. I'll probably wait until it goes on sale, or even just wait the 6 months when it comes onto Xbox Game Pass, because that's usually what happens with the EA Sports games, is after 6 months of their release, they put them out onto Xbox Game Pass. But I have been just playing a couple of games like with my favorite team, the Tennessee Titans, and in franchise mode. It's fun. I mean, it's not like anything that's it's still nowhere near where it should be. I think like the glory days of Madden were on the GameCube, the Xbox, and the PlayStation 2. The franchise mode in those versions were absolutely incredible. They were extremely deep, and it's just like they stripped everything out of them when it moved over to the 360. They didn't add anything back when it moved over to the Xbox One. And I'm hoping finally, with enough people talking about and complaining about, they're going to add in some great franchise stuff going into this next generation, or this current generation, the Series X and the PlayStation 5. But those are the 3 games that I've been dabbling in this week. It's been a very busy week, so I haven't been able to play as many games or put as much time into the games as possible. But let me know what you guys are playing in the comments below. So like I said, there's a bunch of stuff on this episode that I'm going to jump into. I'm not going to name every topic. As I do with every week, I timestamp it so you can just skip ahead to whatever you want to listen to. But for now, let's just jump right into it. Okay, jumping over here to some Xbox news that I didn't get to throughout the week. There were a couple of videos and some interview with Phil Spencer and Games Radar and a bunch of stuff that he talked about. But firstly, I want to talk about a video that Digital Foundry put out breaking down the Xbox Series S, taking it apart, and just doing a complete teardown of it. And now, the Xbox Series X, in my opinion, is just an absolutely beautifully built console for what we get in terms of the power, in terms of the sound, in terms of the heat, in terms of the overall size of the actual thing and what we're getting outputting from it. I always thought it was, when I first saw it, just a really sleek design, and I thought that the Xbox engineering team over at Microsoft did an absolutely amazing job, especially when you're comparing it to the PlayStation 5 and how the PlayStation 5 is a less powerful console, but it is significantly bigger, and the overall engineering of that thing, I think, is absolutely just not great as for a home console, again, directly compared to the Xbox Series X. Now, the Xbox Series S is something that not a lot of people talk about, but I also thought the Series S was a really well-built console because of, again, its size, what we're getting out of it, the price of it, and the sound. Like, you don't even really hear the sound of the Series S as well. Like, I have my Series S set up right behind my monitor on my desk here, and when I'm playing with it, I honestly don't hear it. Like, I don't hear it a lot of the time. And if I do hear it, if it starts to ramp up, it's like a very, very quiet whisper. And it's in such a small box. It kind of reminds me of like the olden days and the retro consoles when you got something, you got like, I don't know what, the Super Nintendo. I mean, Super Nintendo, yeah, it's a relatively small console. It's behind me. I'm even like the PS1, the GameCube, consoles like that were smaller but still gave great gaming experiences. The Series S kind of brought me back to those days, and it's such a portable console too. You could easily bring that with you if you go on a trip. You want to bring it for like the hotel room or something, or if you go, I don't know, to your friend's house, just pop it in your bag. And then we also saw there's like a screen being made for it from, I believe, a Kickstarter. The X screen. It's not like officially from Microsoft or Xbox or anything like that, but it's just the company making something I think called the X screen that's going to be able to literally fold over your Xbox Series S, and you can pretty much have like a portable Xbox Series S, which is kind of cool. And that's all because of the size of it. Well, Digital Foundry also did a teardown of it, and they compared it to the One S, they compared it to the Series X's, like the Series S SoC, they compared it to the Series X SoC, and it was really, really cool. But the main thing to take away from what Digital Foundry said, here's a quote from them. They said, if a PC manufacturer had put together an ultra small form factor unit like this, packing this much performance into this small a box, the reviews would be stellar. The idea that Microsoft is shipping this at $299 is remarkable. And yes, the Xbox Series S is cheap console, but perhaps inexpensive would be a better description, as the quality of the engineering from top to bottom is simply first class. Now, I 100% agree with that as well, because you think about the output of the Series S. A lot of people like to look at it as like the weakest console of the next gen consoles, and you should just skip the Series S and get the Series X. I mean, it all depends where you're playing. If you have the extra cash, yeah, I'd say go with the Series X. But at the same time, if you are planning on playing the Series S on a monitor, 1440p is like the standard monitor these days. Not many people, I think, play on a 4K monitor. A lot of gamers who play first-person shooters play a lot of the stuff that will be being played on the Series S are going to be playing on a 1440p monitor with 144 hertz or 120 hertz or whatever. And the Series S is absolutely perfect for that, because if you think about it, you're going to be getting 120 frames per second, and you're going to be able to play games like Call of Duty Warzone at 120 frames per second. You're going to be able to play Halo Infinite when it comes out at 120 FPS, and you need to play a lot of these shooters on a monitor if you want to be competitive. It's almost impossible to be really good at these shooters, like to compete at a high level, if you're playing it on a big screen, 4K TV sitting back on your couch. It's just, you can't do it pretty much. You just won't be, you could be naturally good at the game, but you'll never be able to like elevate to being really, really good, right? You need to play on a monitor and you need to have good frames per second if you want to compete with the best people. And I think a lot of people will see the Series S, they'll see the price of it, and they'll see that they can get those high frame rates and they get access to all of the shooters that they want to play at those high frame rates. They look at the price and they're just like, well, this is a no-brainer. This is going to be a great console to have. Set it up with the monitor. So when it comes to the output of power and the price you're getting it, I agree that I think that the Series S is absolutely remarkable. Now, in this video from Digital Foundry, I'm going to go to it here. There's some cool things that I wanted to show off if you're watching the video version of this. Well, firstly, to enter the console, it's super simple. There's just 2 screws on the back, which is like been with every single Xbox console. They have a couple screws. I don't know if it's always 2, but they cover it by a little piece of tape. You tear it off and you can get access directly. Like I shouldn't say recently, but just before the Series X came out, I took apart my Xbox One X and I replaced the thermal paste on the SoC because I got the Project Scorpio edition, one of the first batch of it, and it kept overheating when I played like a certain game and it would just turn off. I think it was just NBA 2K was like the only game it did it with, but it was really annoying. So I was looking into it, and it's reading up on it. They said if you just put some higher quality thermal paste on it, it should solve the issue. So that's why I took it apart. It was really easy. Put higher quality thermal paste, and it did solve the issue. One thing I really liked about the One X, I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but one thing I loved about the One X teardown was I think it was, I don't know if it was just the Project Scorpio edition or if it was all Xbox One X's, but on the motherboard itself, there was like a little Easter egg of Master Chief riding a scorpion, just like a little drawing or whatever, and it was really, really cool. And that's actually something that they have here on the Series S on the power supply in this teardown. He shows off the power supply. Let's see if I can get to it here in the video. And there's a little Easter egg with, there it is. Yeah. So there's a Master Chief Easter egg. There's like a logo of the Master Chief on the power supply, which is super cool. I love the touches that Xbox does with their consoles when building them, especially when you're tearing it down and you see these types of things. It just adds like a little more fun to it. Another thing is they have green screws for holding the console together, which obviously those are custom screws, and they thought about like green Xbox, and they have black screws as well, which black is a big color right now with the Series X. So yeah, those little touches I think are really cool, and like it's something, I don't know if PlayStation has this, I don't know if other consoles in the past had this, but it's just something that the engineering team, you can tell, really completely thought out everything when they were creating these consoles for this generation, and they did an absolutely incredible job. So they continue on with the teardown here, and the other cool thing is the SSD internally to the Series S. Here's the picture of it. It's super tiny, and you can apparently replace it if you want to, and it should technically work, but the problem is getting to actually work with the software of the Series S. I feel like there'll be somebody out there that actually figures out how to do that. Me not being a really techie person for this type of stuff, I would never be able to do it, but there must be a way to get another internal SSD card to work within the Xboxes if you plug it in, maybe get more memory, and then somehow get it to work with the software of the Xbox. But that would be cool if that eventually happens. Someone's able to get that to work. And then moving on here, shows the cooling, like the heat sink looks like really well done with all the copper plating and the copper pipes and all that kind of stuff. And then there's like an entire copper heat sink thing around the SoC itself. And they talk about here the RDNA 2 compute units. The difference between the Series X and the Series S with the RDNA 2 stuff is that the Series X, there are 50 RDNA 2 compute units with 50, and so there's 50 RDNA 2 compute units, but there's 56 total compute units. And I guess they keep those additional compute units that aren't being used in case there's like something faulty in the silicon, but making sure that the chip can still be used for retail units. Not 100% sure what that means, but maybe if someone listening understands, let me know in the comments below. So the difference between The Series X and the Series S is 50 RDNA 2 on the Series X and 20 RDNA 2 compute units on the Series S. So that's where a lot of the difference in the power comes between the two units itself. And then what is very interesting here is there's a direct size comparison of the SoC between the Series X and the Series S. And the Series X SoC is significantly bigger in size, which makes a lot of sense. And this is one of the main reasons why they're able to make the Series S so tiny. If you look at the size of the SoC, it looks so small for what we're out getting from that console itself. And it really just helps with the overall form factor. And it's more of a traditional console design as well. It's just like the one single motherboard, where, as we know with the Series X, it's the two motherboards that are attached between a plate for cooling. So that's a big difference as well. And then finally, one of the other cool things that really shows just like the upgrade in engineering that we got this generation compared to last generation, also because of the size of the chip, the 7 nanometer chip, and just the overall increase in technology from like, I forget what year the 1S was released, but whatever year that was released to now, is the overall size of the motherboard between the Xbox One S versus the Xbox Series S. The Xbox Series S being a significantly more powerful console than the Xbox One S, but significantly smaller in its form factor, and runs really well. Like I said, no heating issues, no sound issues, nothing like that. So at the end of the day, it was a great video Digital Foundry did, covering the teardown and just showing it, because we hadn't seen too many teardowns of the Series S, or I haven't. Everyone was focused on the Series X before its release, after its release, the heating, all that kind of stuff. And it's something that I feel like if the roles were reversed, if the Series X and the Series S were PlayStation consoles and the PlayStation 5 was the Xbox, I feel like there would be so much more focus on just how great the engineering team did. And I feel like people, they don't get enough credit at all with both of these consoles, and just how great they are in terms of a form factor, in terms of they've thought about everything when building the consoles. And it makes our lives as consumers easier when you're getting a smaller console with all of that power. It just makes it easier to put into your entertainment system. It looks nicer in your entertainment system. Like if I put my Series X, looks really nice beside my TV. Like vertically, I just have it on the side and it just fits perfectly. My PS5 is within my entertainment system and it looks terrible. My Series S here behind my monitor, I have two little shelf thing. Again, just it's so small, it fits perfectly, it looks great. And yeah, it's something that I've always thought when they first showed off these consoles, it was how great they did with the designs and with the overall engineering of them, because of the form factor, because of the sound, because of the heating, and because of the power we are getting out of them. So yeah, cool video. I would go check it out. It's on Digital Foundry's YouTube channel if you want it. It's an 11-minute video, and he just shows the teardown, how to get into the console, taking things apart, and how everything's labeled and everything like that. Jumping over here to Phil Spencer's comments on the Xbox's strategy of not wanting to copy Sony with big single-player blockbuster games. I think one of the main criticisms that Xbox got for a lot of years, I mean, not anymore with all the studios they've acquired, was just if you looked at, I guess, the quality, people would say, look at the quality of PlayStation games and compare it to Xbox games. And there's a difference there in terms of like the AAA quality of those games. I don't think it's a very fair comparison. I don't think it's a very fair argument overall. I think a lot of this depends on the style and the types of games you want to play. I think that a game like Gears of War, even Gears of War 4, but Gears of War 5 specifically, rivals the production value, the AAA quality of any of the PlayStation games that have come out. But people don't make those types of comparisons, and they look at something like Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War, and just how cinematic those games are. Just how cinematic and how graphically impressive they are, and they think that where's Xbox's game style of games like that. Now, I would say that personally, I'm very happy with Phil Spencer's comments, what he says here. We'll go through that after. But personally, I wouldn't want Xbox to have all of those styles of games, all those games that PlayStation has. if the games were multi-platform, sure, but I just mean like I wouldn't want them to try to go in Sony's direction of creating these cinematic style of games. They're really not my cup of tea. I find them long-winded in the cinematics. I find the gameplay honestly isn't that great for like Uncharted. I don't know what the big rave is about Uncharted other than the actual cinematics and I guess the story of it. I can get that part of it, but I always found the gameplay with Uncharted wasn't that great. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I found it like clunky, especially like the shooting and stuff. God of War was an incredible game. I loved God of War, so I'm not going to disagree with people who say that game is awesome in the production value. Even with like the cinematics were well done and they didn't like overtake the game. I've never played The Last of Us 2, so I can't really comment on that, but I absolutely loved the first Last of Us. Spider-Man's more my style. Like I would love to see like Spider-Man style of games on Xbox, which I mean they're already there. But Spider-Man's more my style. Insomniac to me is the best developer at PlayStation because they make fun games. Like Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man are my style of games. And I love that Xbox has those styles of games in their catalog. Like you look at a game like Halo. Halo is never going to be winning the award for the best looking, the most cinematic. I mean, the campaign cinematics within Halo are awesome. Don't get me wrong. I just mean it's never going to be known as that style of game. It's going to be known as a game that has really fun gameplay, really tight, solid shooting mechanics, and amazing multiplayer. And I much rather games like that than linear games that are 10 to 15 hours long with a bunch of cinematics in between. So technically you're probably only playing for like 8 hours or so. I don't know. I just find them boring. Like my best example to explain why I like the Xbox catalog and why I disagree with people looking at the AAA PlayStation games and saying these are the pinnacle of video games is a game like Crackdown 3. Crackdown 3 got terrible reviews, got absolutely destroyed by everybody. People made fun of it. People made fun of Xbox for it. And I mean, it was fair because they teased it. They wanted to do the cloud stuff and it was in development for so long. And then when it came out, it obviously wasn't what people's expectations were. But the gameplay of Crackdown 3 to me was a ton of fun, and I actually absolutely loved the campaign. I didn't really touch the multiplayer, but the campaign, I had a ton of fun playing Crackdown 3. And I would personally rather play games with fun gameplay with less story and less cinematics than the reverse. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really happy to hear Phil Spencer has to say, and the fact that they're not copying Sony is, I think, a great thing. So I just rambled for a bunch there trying to explain why I like the Xbox's catalog and the way they're going. But here's what Phil Spencer said. He said, our strategy is not to just go be like someone else. I get a push sometimes of where's your vision of this or that game. I've been in the industry for a long time. I have a ton of respect for creators on all platforms, and I know many of them. But it's good if we're doing something different than what other platforms are doing. We're not in the business of just trying to create a green version of somebody else's blue or red colored platform. That's not the example of creativity that I want to see in the games industry. And that's just a great quote. Really happy with his train of thought on this, especially when you look at like Xbox's catalog coming up. The Xbox catalog is going to be really known for, it's going to be very diverse. It's going to have a bunch of different games and different genres. But I think the main genres that the Xbox is going to be known for now and going forward is going to be first-person shooters and RPGs. And both of those styles of games, the main part of those games are going to be like the gameplay of them and the character building and stuff like that. Like you think about Avowed coming out, you think about The Outer Worlds 2, what else is coming out? The next Elder Scrolls, Starfield, bunch of other stuff too coming as well, right? The next Fable. Those are all going to have games with deep stories and great cinematic stuff like that, but the main core part of those games that are going to attract people to want to play them is going to be the gameplay. It's going to be the leveling of your character, finding different armor, finding different loot, things like that, stuff that you're going to sink hours and hours into actually playing the game rather than watching the game. And that's what has me so excited about the Xbox catalog going forward. I've always thought like this too, and it's not just because I make Xbox videos. I've thought like this all the way back probably to like the PS2 days. Like my favorite PlayStation games from PS2 have always been, I would say, Ratchet and Clank and God of War, both which are, I would say, highly gameplay focused. But Ratchet and Clank was always like that one game that attracted me to the PlayStation console, how fast paced it was, all the different guns, and just how fun it was. And I really do like Insomniac. I think they're a great developer. And when PlayStation purchased them, it was kind of a shame because of how much I loved Sunset Overdrive. Like Sunset Overdrive, oh man, that game got me into the Xbox One. I've been an Xbox, like I've had Xbox from the original Xbox all the way through. But when it came to the Xbox One, I was completely annoyed and pissed off of what the Xbox One was when they launched it, when the DRM, even though they reversed it, and just like it was just a terrible console launch. So I didn't buy an Xbox One for at least a year, I believe. I bought it when Master Chief Collection came out, and the Xbox One that I was able to get at that time, because it was like the special edition, it was the same price as the other one, and it came with a game. So I'm like, whatever, I'll go for it. Was the Sunset Overdrive version, which I have up on my shelf over here, and it's literally the nicest video game box I think I have, and in my opinion, probably the best, coolest, nicest video game box out there. But it's a Sunset Overdrive edition. The white VCR Xbox One came with Sunset Overdrive, and I would have never played that game if it wasn't for Halo, first of all, in the Master Chief Collection, and this special edition. And man, thank God I did, because that was one of my favorite games of the Xbox One generation, Sunset Overdrive. I put it up there in my top 5, 100%. And it's a shame that we may never see a sequel to it, but you never know. And if we do see a sequel to it, it'll probably only be on PlayStation. But I feel like if they did make Sunset Overdrive 2, that'd be a PlayStation game they probably put on PC as well. I feel like they wouldn't keep that only to PlayStation. But yeah, all in all this rambling to say, it's great to see Xbox's kind of train of thought here, that they want to be unique. They don't care that PlayStation puts out the 15-hour blockbuster movie that everyone rants and raves about, spends $100 on. And I say $100 to anyone listening, it's $100 for PlayStation games after tax in Canada, but spends $100 and then never picks it up, puts it in again, and then probably resells it. It's not, a lot of those games are not for me. And yeah, it's going to be tons of fun gameplay games coming to Xbox and to Xbox Game Pass this generation. Okay, and finishing off the Xbox news for the podcast that I wanted to just quickly go over were 2 tweets, one from Phil Spencer and one from Jason Ronald. So the first one here from Phil Spencer on August 13th, he says, was at Valve Software this week talking with Scott, Eric, Gabe about Steam Deck. After having mine most of the week, I can say it's a really nice device. Games with me on the go. Screen size, controls, all great. Playing Halo and Age feels good. xCloud works well. Congrats to the Steam Deck team. So firstly, he's not the first person that says that this device feels great in terms of the controls and in your hand. Like everyone I feel like who's had a pre-release version of it, been able to get hands-on with the device, has said that it feels great in their hands and that the controls are good, which is something that when I initially saw the Steam Deck itself, I'm like, firstly, I thought it would look like it was a really cool device, but then I was getting a little concerned about the button layout and the trackpad and the ABXY and the D-pad being right beside the actual joysticks. But hey, it looks like based off of the ergonomics of it, it's going to feel good in people's hands from what everyone is saying about it. And then secondly, what's really cool here is that he played Halo and Age of Empires on it. I'm assuming directly through the Steam, downloading it from Steam on his account or whatever. And he also tried xCloud, which through SteamOS, I'm thinking the only way he could have accessed xCloud would have been through the Steam browser, the SteamOS browser. And people are asking about this in the comments, and it seems like that would be the way that he would be able to access it, because he didn't sideload it, right? There's no way he took it and put Windows on it or anything yet. He was just using SteamOS, which is pretty cool, pretty neat as well, because right off the bat, let's say you don't want to install Windows, you're still going to be able to access your Xbox Game Pass subscription on your Steam Deck with xCloud. And for some people, that may be more than adequate. Maybe they want to stay logged into their Steam account, play all the games they have available on Steam while being able to access xCloud or their Xbox Game Pass subscription, which they'll be able to do through xCloud. And they may not want to install Windows on there to be able to natively download the game. So that's going to be a cool feature to have. I think it doesn't obviously take advantage of the actual device itself. If you're just using xCloud, that's why like installing Windows 11 on Steam Deck when you get it, that's what I'm going to do when I get it most likely. I think will be the best because you could just download the games right to your Steam Deck and actually take advantage of the hardware itself and just have a better experience playing them than playing it through xCloud. But this also is cool because it's Phil Spencer recognizing playing Xbox games on a handheld. Now, I know that doesn't mean anything. I firmly believe that we will never see an Xbox handheld. I just don't think it makes absolutely any sense within the Xbox strategy because of the fact, well, it does make sense within the strategy as it would open up, it would just be another avenue for people to get into Xbox Game Pass. I just mean like right now, the handheld for Xbox is mobile and playing through xCloud. But I think a handheld gaming device like the Steam Deck that has been branded for Xbox and it has Game Pass natively right on there when you open it up would be a pretty good selling device. I think a lot of people would want that. And Phil Spencer here recognizing the device itself and being happy with it and seeing how Xbox games can run on a handheld device may one day pique the interest for Microsoft to want to go forward and make a handheld device. I don't think so, but it's cool that we at least are getting the Steam Deck and we're going to be able to turn that into an Xbox handheld device. That's what I'm going to do. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to do. And the more I hear about this, the more people have their hands on, the more people talk about it, the more I just can't wait to get it. I believe mine's coming in Q1 of 2022. I think that's what it says. So I'm assuming probably by like January, February, I should have it, depending on how the shipping and all that kind of stuff goes. It'll be interesting to see when this releases, when people get it. Like, are people actually going to get this thing in December? Because that's the first batch of them, right? It's hard to believe that a lot of people are going to be getting their Steam Decks in December unless they like get them in like the first week or so. I just feel like with Christmas and the holidays and all that kind of stuff and people, I don't know, people being off or and maybe not, right? People buy stuff on like Amazon on like December 23rd and they get it on like the 24th, right? So maybe not, but we'll see how the shipping with the Steam Deck goes. And the fact that they were able to create this device and get it out there and get all the shipping, and if it goes smoothly within the pandemic with all the chip shortages and everything, I think it's pretty impressive. I know it's a massive company. They have a ton of money, so they can really pull a lot of strings to make sure that this stuff gets done. But it's pretty impressive, and I'm excited for this thing to come out. So Phil Spencer likes it. I feel like a lot of people are going to like it when it comes out, and I think a lot of people are going to use it as an Xbox handheld. And then jumping over here to Jason Ronald. Jason Ronald was asked about Quick Resume. So as we know, we're getting some games coming out on Xbox without Quick Resume enabled. And it's weird because Quick Resume on the Xbox consoles is one of the best features like ever on a console, right? It really is that good. People were kind of thinking it was a buzzword and making fun of it when they first announced it, but if you go on your PlayStation and then go back to your Xbox, you really see the difference that Quick Resume has, especially with that queue where you can just like jump between game after game after game, right where you left off with virtually no loading. I don't think I could ever go back to playing games on a console without Quick Resume. It really is that good, in my opinion. But unfortunately, some games are being released without it. And Jason Ronald responded to a question asking about this, saying, yes, the team has been putting a lot of effort into hardening Quick Resume, and we put some titles through extra validation to make sure the experience is as intended before enabling it. Feeling good about the progress, and you shouldn't see a delay for new titles soon. So if you're somebody out there who is wondering why some games that you're playing don't have Quick Resume, if they're newer games, it looks like those delays are going to start to become smaller, and they're just trying to make sure that it works properly when it's released. There were games that came out at launch where Quick Resume didn't work. I think like Assassin's Creed, they had to take it off, then put it back on, then take it off, then put it back on again, and it works fine now. But that would be more frustrating, I think, than waiting a little bit when the game is released to have Quake Resume working properly. It's just it can be a little bit of annoying when you need a feature there, or you want a feature there, you expect a feature to be there, and it isn't. But we have some clarification as to what's going on. It's not just because the games don't work with it. It's not just because they're importing out. It's because they want to make sure that you get the best possible experience when Quick Resume, or with all the quality of life features in Quick Resume being in there. So yeah, 2 quick tweets, Phil Spencer, Jason Ronald, just interesting stuff going on, and getting some more insight as to why stuff isn't working. But yeah, that's it for this section. And let's jump on to the next topic. Okay, so the next thing I want to jump over to here is probably one of the wackiest things going on within gaming right now, and it has to do with this game called Abandoned, which back in June was announced to be a cinematic survival sim for the PlayStation 5. And as soon as they showed off this game and they announced it, and they really didn't show much about like the story or anything about the game, but when they gave the reveal for it, people were saying that this was going to be Silent Hill, and this was going to be from Kojima, and that they were doing all of these teasers, and he was going to come out and just surprise everybody that he is working on the next Silent Hill exclusively for PlayStation. Now, since all of that, the fanboys and everyone's continuing to push these conspiracies and these narratives that are clearly not true. Like, it clearly has nothing to do with Kojima. It's clearly not Silent Hill. It's clearly not Metal Gear. Konami owns all of those IPs, and we probably would have known by now if they were in the hands of Blue Box Game Studios, but they obviously aren't. So Blue Box came out and said they have nothing to do with Kojima, nothing to do with Konami. And Hassan, who is, I believe, the guy featured in this article, because if you click on the actual tweet itself, you see you see all of these fanboys coming up with these like delusional thoughts that this Hassan guy was Kojima, and coming up with all of these like conspiracy theories and all this kind of funny stuff. But he later came out, put out a video, showed his face, and said that they have nothing to do with Konami, nothing to do with Kojima, and that they are just working on their own game, and they're an indie studio and all that kind of stuff. And all of this has been leading up to an app that they are working on, or they were working on for the PlayStation 5, which looks like this here. This is what the app looks like, where they're going to be releasing a series of trailers and then gameplay demos for the eventual, leading up to the eventual release of the game. Now, the first trailer they put out, which was one that everybody was waiting for, they thought it was going to be way more than it was a video that they had already put out on Twitter on August 10th. And it's literally just a video of hardwood floor and a guy walking across the hardwood floor. That's the same video that showed up on the app yesterday. So a lot of people are outraged right now, and they're really pissed off because they expected more and they didn't get more. Now, I understand why people are annoyed, because Blue Box has been teasing this game for a while now, and they've been kind of making you believe that you're going to get a bigger kind of reveal for what the game is about than they actually got. But at the same time, the reason why there's so much craziness around this game is because of the people out there that still somehow think that this is going to end up being a Kojima game, when clearly it isn't going to be a Kojima game. And it's kind of sad in a way, because this is an indie studio. I'm not sure how many people are in this studio, but it's a smaller indie studio. It's being backed by PlayStation, so they have the funds and all that kind of stuff. And there was a leak previously that PlayStation was purchasing Blue Box. They had announced the purchase of another company, another studio, Housemarque, but then there was a picture that got shared accidentally, and it said they acquired Blue Box, but we haven't heard anything since then. So maybe they just haven't finalized yet or anything. But my point about all of this is, when this game eventually does come out, it never has a chance to live up to the expectations of what a lot of these fans want this game to be, because there's still people out there that think this is going to be there's going to be an announcement where Kojima jumps out behind a curtain, tears off this guy's face, and says, "Hey, it was me the entire time," and this is going to be the next Silent Hills. There's still people out there that think that, and when that doesn't happen, Blue Box is probably going to get so much hate, and it's just completely unfortunate. And the reason this is going to happen is, one, actually, I don't even want to put any blame on Blue Box, because I mean, they've tweeted it, they put up videos, they said they don't have anything to do with Kojima, they have nothing to do with Konami. it's going to happen because of all the people out there continuously pushing this crazy narrative that this could have something to do with Silent Hill, something to do with Metal Gear. All of the game journalist articles that are continuing to still talk about and write about these conspiracy theories, or these trying to put these connections together that like Hassan means Hideo in Japanese or something like that. I don't know. But you know, it's gonna be sad, because you know people are going to jump on the studio when they finally get the full reveal of like the story, the characters, and all that kind of stuff, and that this game has nothing to do with anything they want it to do with. But at the same time, they were also touting this app on PlayStation 5, and that people were going to get this reveal trailer and all that stuff, and they got nothing really. I feel like at this point, Blue Box Games needs to literally just reveal the story, the plot, the characters, all that kind of stuff. Give a better gameplay trailer that really shows off the gameplay and the game world and everything, and finalize it in people's minds that it is a brand new IP from this game studio that you should still, I guess, if you're into these types of games, still be excited about. I mean, that's what they need to do in order to end all of this. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. Maybe like I look like an idiot in 2 weeks from now or something, and Kojima jumps out behind the curtain and says that, haha, we fooled everybody, and all those conspiracy theories were correct. This is going to be a new exclusive Kojima game for PlayStation. Even though we've heard also that Kojima is in talks with Xbox, and they're almost finalizing that deal for him to work on his next game for the streaming service for the xCloud. So, I mean, we hear about all these rumors happening, and they sound a lot closer than they are to being finalized. And then it goes like a month or so, or months later before we get more information on it. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with this game. And yeah, I don't know. It's just crazy. Even like you see like YouTubers and you see people who have large followings continuing to push these narratives of that this is Kojima, and it's just not going to end well for Blue Box. And hopefully it isn't too bad once, I guess, the hammer drops that 100% finalizes that this isn't Kojima. But logically, if you just logically sit back and look at what they've shown off, what they've announced, and the acquisition, the fact that PlayStation and Sony and Kojima and Blue Box would have to acquire the Silent Hill and Metal Gear IPs to even be able to work on these games. And we know Konami hasn't sold them. So right there, you know it has nothing to do with it. But that's all I have to say for this one. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. But that's it for me, guys. Wrapping up another episode of Plumecast. Thank you all again for listening, watching, wherever you are. Appreciate all of the support. I reached 5K subscribers last week. I have the 5K subscriber giveaway up on my channel in like the community post section, just giving away 15 codes for Xbox Game Pass, 10 1-month codes, and 5 3-month codes. All the information is in that community post if you want to enter, so go make sure to check that out. Thank you guys again, like, for all of your support. It really means a lot, and I will catch you guys next week on the Plumecast, as well as in my videos throughout the week.
We'll be right back.